So I wanted to expand upon a conversation that we had yesterday about the Vancouver Canucks and guys that they have been confirmed to being interested in. Yeah, I'm sorry. If English was not your first language, that must have been a really difficult sentence to follow. But I wanted to dive into a bigger conversation about Marco Rossi, one of the two names that we had discussed yesterday in the Canucks are interested in them video, mostly because when it comes to the Marco Rossi trade price, we're starting to see some thoughts floating around there saying that it might not actually be all too beefy. The main reason I'm making this video, and the main reason I'm saying that, is because of a video that was posted on the Canucks Army Canucks Conversation podcast. It's David Quadrelli and Harman Dale going out there and talking about what would it take to trade for Marco Rossi. Maybe less than you think. This video is going to be linked in the description, but essentially, Quads on the program says that whatever trade proposal the Vancouver Canucks have for Marco Rossi, it starts with the 15th overall pick. And the default answer would be to go 15th overall pick, plus a prospect, plus a roster player. Quads goes out there and labels like Karamaki, and potentially Nils Höglander as a package proposal for Marco Rossi. And look, my immediate instinct upon hearing that, 15th, plus the Karamaki, plus Höglander for Rossi, you know, my gut tells me that it's probably a little bit too much for the Canucks, but I also think that Marco Rossi is a talented enough player that there will probably be enough teams going out there and all wanting this guy, so you're gonna have to pay a price to get a price, right? If that's what it takes to win a bidding war for this player, then so be it. But I thought Harman Dale's response on this podcast clip was really, really interesting because he ends up saying on the show that he doesn't even know if it would take 15th plus Karamaki. And he says he doesn't even think that he'd feel comfortable giving up 15th plus Karamaki for Marco Rossi. He also says that Bill Guerin and the Wild, they don't particularly like smaller players anyway, so maybe Rossi wouldn't really be on their radar. But what Dale ends up saying on the clip is that he doesn't really think that you'd have to add a super big, huge piece to a 15th overall pick to maybe make a trade for Marco Rossi. His guess is, and this is talked about in the video clip, that by the time Rossi gets traded, it has the potential to be for a package that a lot of us look at and say, okay, well, that's it? Really? And honestly, I see the vision there too. I'm a little biased because I love Marco Rossi. Watched that guy since he was in the 2019-20 Ottawa 67s campaign, and he was fantastic there. Was fantastic in the year before that too. I'm a big Marco Rossi fan. So maybe I'm a little bit biased in thinking that a 5'9" forward with very limited RFA rights and less bargaining power than maybe you would imagine, I would be kind of biased in thinking that that kind of guy who has the potential that he has is probably going to go for a lot. But thinking about what NHL GMs value, thinking about what Bill Guerin values, it doesn't really seem like this is the type of player that would be able to command an extremely high price, mostly because he is small, mostly because he doesn't have much leverage in these negotiations with the contract. He already rejected a 5x5 deal, which I honestly think is a little bit more on the team-friendlier side than most would believe, but he also is wanting 7x7, and if that's kind of the expectation that he has, playing for a team that's already tossed him down the lineup and isn't really all too keen on giving him that opportunity, then okay, I could understand why other NHL GMs might look at that and be like, yeah, well, he's a small guy. This isn't really going to be a player who becomes as good as a player who produces like him should be. And the reason I say that is because he was a double point per game guy as a draft eligible. He was the top scoring player in the CHL. He was so good. He had a knack for the net, such extreme playmaking ability, he could slow the game down, he could evade traffic, he could evade body checks, and even now, he scores greasy goals. He's a net front presence, even though he's only 5'9". He battles in front, he gets those kinds of garbage goals. He plays a lot bigger than 5'9". And I think for somebody who happens to be a fan of Marco Rossi, I'm like, yeah, like, This is a guy who's going to exhibit more beyond the stereotypical 5'9" NHL forward, and he's going to break free. The fact that he went top 10 as a 5'9" guy in the first place, that's already quite impressive, not gonna lie. But now, we are in a spot where, because of his size and because of what the Minnesota Wild value in their players, big size, they like that frame, they didn't really give Rossi that opportunity to be more than what he already is in the playoffs against Vegas this season. Because Minnesota's in that spot, I actually kind of agree here. Maybe the Marco Rossi trade price that gets it done is a price that a lot of us think is an underpay. And by the time Rossi is a 70 or an 80-point guy in the NHL, consistently getting top-line power play minutes and second-line minutes usage at 5v5, by the time he is that dude, maybe Minnesota Wild fans will be looking around saying, yeah, we kind of got beaten up here. Not great. Very unfortunate. We lost out on this guy that happened to be very good. All because we didn't want to give him the Matt Boldy contract. And look, maybe it's fair to say that he doesn't deserve that at this point yet, because I don't know if y'all have been paying attention, but Matt Boldy has been very, very good. I mean, that guy scored 70 points this season. But, yeah, Marco Rossi wasn't too far behind. He had 60. He was second on the team in points behind Matt Boldy, so that's a pretty good number right there, I would say. There's a lot to like out of Marco Rossi. But because of this Canucks Conversation podcast quote, I wanted to go out there and open up the conversation that debates whether or not the price for this guy would actually be a lot less than we expect. A lot of folks are going out there and diving into the replies and saying, okay, it's going to be 15th overall and then Filipino or Dakota Joshua or somebody else like that. Honestly, if it's Joshua, I'm starting to get a little bit antsy with Dakota Joshua and his capability. I know he had cancer last year, so maybe it's unfair to critique him in the way that I'm critiquing him, but he was so good in 23-24, 24-25, he wasn't really much of that. If he has a summer where he absolutely blows up in the gym, he has a work ethic to continue playing and pacing himself in the way that he was prior to his cancer. And if Patrick Allvin can sell him on the Minnesota Wild, be like, hey, this guy, yeah, he's going to be better. He has all these things going for him. You saw what he was able to do last year. You saw the goal production. You saw the physicality to through the legs goals out of nowhere. The fact that this guy scored some of the clutchest goals the Canucks have had in the playoffs in years. Why not take Dakota Joshua in the 15th overall pick? And then maybe another prospect that happens to be bigger, but not really all too higher up in the prospect pyramid. If it's like a B-level prospect, Joshua and 15th overall for Rossi, if the Wild are interested in accepting that, I'd take that any day of the week. The 15th overall pick is as good as gone anyways. There's no way the Canucks actually end up using it, right? So with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think is the trade price for one Marco Rossi out of the Minnesota Wild system? And what do you think it is the Vancouver Canucks have that the Wild could potentially say yes to? There are a bunch of names that I think we can dive into, but ultimately, Harmon Dale's point is that it might not actually be too many of the big ones. Maybe it's not Villander. Maybe it's not Lekaramaki and 15th overall. Maybe it's just 15th overall and some other asset. Who really knows? Is Filipino actually an option? Or is he too concussion prone? I don't know. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.